Hello everyone. So today we are going to discuss how to use the Perceive platform to add a 3D model and create or add necessary labels to a 3D model and make the necessary customization which will enable the users to integrate the 3D model in their daily session. So firstly, I'm going to go to the website portal.perceive.io. So since I'm currently logged in, so I will directly land onto the dashboard page of portal.perceive.io. So here you can see that currently I'm in a project mode. So if you go to the library, you directly land onto the library page, and there are other options. But our prime focus is how to add a 3D model and add labels to it and make necessary customization. So what we are going to do is that we are going to go back to the project. In the project, I'm going to click on create new project. So once you click on the page create new project, first thing is that you need to add a title to the project. So let's name it demo project, and I'll select the 3D option. So once I have selected the 3D option, the page is ready now, and I'll go to the create option. So now I have landed this, the demo project page is successfully created, and this particular page in the project is called the configuration dashboard of the project, right? So the next step which I'm going to do over here is to add the model. So how can I add model? The user can add their own 3D models. Let's say if you have your own 3D model, you can simply go there and upload the 3D model, or if you don't have the 3D model, you can directly use the library, the Perceive library, which already has an exhaustive list of 3D model which is already there. So let's select some 3D models from the library. So once I go to the library, I can select any particular grade which I want, or I can simply go and select the look for that particular 3D model. So let's say I click on, so let's say I click on lateral section of a flower. So once I click on the lateral section of a flower, all the necessary models which is related to that particular topic is getting populated over here. So I'll go and pick this 3D model, lateral section of a flower, and I'll click on submit. So the moment I have clicked on the flower, the particular model, the model is uploaded over here now. I'll select this model. So this is the 3D model of a lateral section of a flower which is being showcased over here. If I need to add a particular thumbnail, I can just click on this. So let's say I want this orientation to be my thumbnail. I'll click and go and click over here. So now this is my thumbnail. So how are we going to make the necessary changes? How are we going to add the labels? I'll show you that. So first thing, if I need to make any changes to the name of the 3D model, I can do that. So let's say if I want to add, or I want to make some changes over here. So let's say demo lateral section of a flower. So I'll go and I'll save this. So once I have saved, the name is changed now. So I'll explain you all the different tools and functionality which will enable you to make the customization. So first one which we have over here is the background. So currently you can see that my background is of gray color. If I need any particular, if I want to add any particular background, I can do that as well. So you can see I have different options of color. Even I can add some background textures, right? So for example, if I need a background which changes its color, right, even I can do that. So let's keep this, skip this. So let's keep this. So let's keep this background as my final background, right? So now this is done. So next, the next thing which I'm going to show over here is the Canvas Design Control. So what does Canvas Design Control allow you to do is that on the final launch page, once my model is ready, once everything is done, there are certain tools which are present over there. So what is the level of engagement that we want the end user to have? What is the necessary tools that we want the end user to use? So we can define those things. So we'll come to this once we launch the model. We'll come back to this functionality and we'll try to understand its role. So the next is the XR. So in this one, you can see that you can make the necessary changes for the AR VR setting, which is not relevant as of now. So we'll skip this for now, right? Moving ahead is the camera. So in the camera mode, what you can see that what you can do is that when the 3D model opens, you want the 3D model to open in this particular orientation or this orientation or whatever particular orientation, you can define those things. You can move the 3D model using this axis on left, right, x, y, z direction, right? And let's say I want the model to open in this particular orientation. When the model is launched for the first time, I'll go and store the current orientation. I'll go and store the object position, and I'll save this. how much zoom out, zoom in needs to be defined. Even that can be controlled using the zoom control radius, which is an advanced setting which need not be necessarily accessed. So we can ignore this as of now. Now moving ahead, we also have some light settings. Like there are different kind of light settings which comes in default mode, right? Any 3D model has got some light settings. So by manipulating the light setting, you can make the, like you can define that from which particular direction the light is going to come, right? Again, we can ignore this particular because this is already, there are certain default light settings which is already there, so we can move ahead, right? So coming to the next, which is next two functionalities, which is the major functionality which will allow you to do the necessary customization. One is the 3D object setting. So let's say you want certain layers to be turned off. So what you need to do is that you just go and click on this button over here, and you want that you don't need this particular sepal to be present. So you select this, it will automatically get highlighted over here. So if I need to turn it off, I can turn it off. So while I launch this 3D model, in the final 3D model, it will not be there. So let's say if I click on this launch button, right, my 3D model is ready to be launched. So I go and click on this live URL, I'll click on this button. So once the model is launched, you can see that s- that particular part of the flower is not there. So let's go back and let's bring it back, right? So we'll go there, we'll bring this back, and we'll update it again, and we'll open this. So now you can see that that particular component is back. So using this 3D object setting, you can make changes, you can turn on and off the layers. What all things we can do, let's see. So here, let's say I have selected this particular component of the 3D model. So I want to add some transparency to it. So I can do that as well. I can control the amount of transparency that I want to give to a particular component, right? I can give some metallic effect, so it will give some different look and feel. If I want to have a particular color, let's say your ask is that you want to have a segment of the component, a 3D object, right, to have a particular color or a different color, you can do that as well, right? So let's keep it in this way. Once you click on update, save and update, now this is ready to be launched again, and you can see over here that that particular component has a different color which we have just assigned, right? So this is how the 3D object setting works. We can define those settings, right? We can define the transparency, we can turn on and off the layers, we can add different colors as required. So moving to the final functionality which we have over here is called the mesh labels. So let's say I want to add certain labels to it, and I want the model to behave in a particular manner or open in a particular orientation. When I click on that particular label, so we'll try to understand how do we do that. So first I need to click on this plus button. The moment I click on this plus button and I select any component of this 3D model, you can see a label has popped up with the XYZ axis. So I'll click on the plus button again, and now you can see that if you go close and if you see this, there is a small label which is coming. I can define the position of the label. I want the label, let's say, to be a little off the model, and I want it to be at a certain x-axis, and I want it to be in certain y-axis. I can define that. Now I have this component of the label which is already fixed in the three-dimensional space as per my requirement. I have done that. Now, let's say I need to add certain textual informations. For example, I just want to add certain textual information over here, which is describing that particular component. So I already have certain details over here. I'll just pick it from here, right? So I'll add it. So by simply adding the text part over here, I have added the necessary information. If you need to add anything more, you can do the changes in the future. It's up to you how you're going to add the custom information. Now let's say when I click on this particular component of the 3D model, I want it to open in this mode. I want it to be viewed in this particular angle. So what I'll do for that, I'll just click on store camera orientation. So the moment I click on store camera orientation, the camera orientation is stored now. I'll save, and then after this I'll click on update. So the moment I click on update, the project is launched again. So I'll go here and open it in new URL. So you can see the 3D model has got the label which we have just added. And let's see what happens if we click it. The moment I click it, the model is again oriented in the way we defined it, and the necessary information about this has popped up over here, right? Let's add a few more labels to deepen our understanding. Let's say I want to add one more level of the pedicel, right? So I'll just copy the text from here. I'll go to this component. I'll go here. This is my pedestal. I'll click here. I'll click on the plus button again. I'll define the position of this label. I want the 3D model to open like this when this component is clicked. I'll store the camera orientation. I'll just add the title to the label. I'll add the textual information which is needed over here, and I'll click on save and then update. So once I click on update, the model is launched again. So now if you see, both the labels are visible in front of you. The moment I click on the first one, it takes me to that particular orientation with the textual information popping up over here. I click on next button, it takes me to the pedestal. Let's add one last label and we will be through with it. So let's say I want to add one more label. Let's say I want to add ovules. So the label is little bit inside. I'll just take it out and I'll position it at the desired position over here, right? And I want the model to be oriented in this particular fashion when I click on it. So I'll add the title and I'll add the factual information that I have. I'll store the camera orientation. I'll click on update. So I'll launch it. So now you can see the third label is also enabled. So I can click on this staple. Then I am at the pedestal. I can move forward, I can move backward, and I am at the overview. So this is how you can control. And at any point, if you don't want the 3D labels to be present, what you can do is that you can simply click on this I button, which will disable the label. And once you need the labels back, you can click on this I button to enable the label. Now, before we jump to the tool setting, which I told you just earlier, so you can see that here we have a set of tools. Using the mouse simply by scroll button, I can zoom in, zoom out, which can be done through this zoom bar. I have a navigation button which gives me the different views: top view, left view, right view. I have the annotation tool which actually allows me to annotate, write, or demarcate anything in particular, right? I have some 3D interaction tools, like for example, I have the drag tool over here, right? Or let's say if I have this slicer tool, right? If I need to slice off something, I need to remove something, I can do that as well. So these tools are already there. But if you don't want the user to have access to these tools, right, we can even define that, which we just mentioned in our discussion, right? So for that, what you need to do is that you need to just go to the canvas design control. So here this is the global control. So if I turn this off, everything is off. I can, if I update this, I launch this. Now you can see that the model is launched, but there are no tools, zero tools available. Only I have the option which I have available with me is the label option. I can turn on and turn off the label, or I can just simply click on toggle. So toggle allows the model to just rotate in a particular orientation. Let's go back. So I need certain functionalities to be available with the teachers, right? So what I'll do is that for that, let's say I don't need the title bar, but in this I don't need any toolbar, or let's say I need certain functionality. I want the camera to be off. I want the record button to be off. I don't need navigation. I don't need sharing option. I need the labels, so it will be on. I'll click on update and I'll launch it. So the moment I launch it, certain functionalities are there, but rest of it is not there. Let's go back again, one for the final time, and turn on everything back. Update, launch. So all the functionalities and all the tools setting which we have just seen over here is back over here. So this is how you can seamlessly add the labels, make the necessary changes to the different components of the 3D model, define what control tools the end user needs to have, right? You can define, you can control, you can name the 3D model as per your convenience. You can define the background that needs to be shown. You can, this is design control which we have already discussed. XR is something which we are not going into that detail. Camera settings we have already discussed. Light setting is again advanced settings, so we can skip that. So the main two things which is the primary area of focus is the 3D object setting and the mesh labels. So this is how you can very easily manipulate the 3D model by adding the labels, making necessary changes, custom changes to the different components of the 3D model. So that's all from my end. Thank you.